Drag me down my life. You stood by me when no one else was ever behind me. All these lights, they can't blind me. With your love, nobody can drag me down.
Okay, so I went to St. George Girls High, and that's in Kogarah. I studied 4-unit maths, 2-unit English, so advanced English. I studied chemistry and I studied bio, so 10 units all up. And the marks?
If you can remember.
Yeah.
It was a while ago, right?
Yeah, so for 3-unit, I got 100. For 4-unit, 95. For English, 96. Chem, I got 98. And bio, 93.
Well, you can see why it was 0.95, right? You can see why it was a 0.95. Now, before we get to Kate, we're going to get Kate to introduce himself in a minute. Now, Amy, what's your surname, Amy?
Yan.
Yan,
Yeah.
right? So everyone can see here, Amy's Asian, right? Okay, it's not a problem. Just because she's Asian, it doesn't mean that's the only reason why she got a 91.95. Now, Regib before did a pretty cool impersonation of how an average Asian parent would be, etc.
Yeah.
Is that how your parents were, or was it a little bit different?
No, it was really different. Like, truthfully, my parents didn't want me doing medicine or like just stressing out in general. I think in their eyes, culturally, they wanted me more to be like, know how to cook, know how to clean, all those jobs.
You sound Lebanese.
Oh, really?
Just kidding.
No, but to them, it was important for me to more enjoy life in that sort of sense, yeah, and not stress out about things like that.
Do you think that actually helped in terms of you actually achieving that result?
I didn't have that added stress of parental pressure, I guess. I think it did really help me because it provided me with more motivation in a sense, because I wanted to prove to them that this is actually what I really want to do. And I'm going to work hard for it. And I think in the end they realized that, and then that actually, they helped me along the way a lot. So, yeah.
Kate, you got a 99.6, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, tell us which subjects did you do, what school you went to?
So I graduated from Alpha Omega Senior College in 2014. I did biology, chemistry, 4-unit maths, 3-unit maths, and advanced English. I ended up getting 96 in 3-unit, 97 in 4-unit, 95 in biology, a 92 in chemistry, and a 92 in advanced. Yeah.
Now, were your parents similar to Amy's parents, or were they more like, Kate, you better do well, or
no, my parents.
dead?
No, my parents were like, they just wanted me to do my best, right? So if they knew I wasn't pushing myself to do the best I could, then they'd be disappointed in me. But as long as I did that, they really didn't ask anything of me, and they basically wanted me to do anything that I enjoyed. Yeah.
So what I can see here, and this is, I guess, something that the audience should really take to, I can really see that the reason why your parents, I guess, did not put that added pressure, etc., is because you were already working hard. I mean, to get 100 in, was it 3-unit or 4-unit?
3. In
3-unit. To get 100 in 3-unit is not an easy task to ask for, right? So obviously you were pretty consistent throughout the year. That's probably one of the reasons why your parents didn't have to, keep pushing you.
Yeah, definitely. I think my parents I think both for Amy and I, our parents saw that we definitely had a personal standard for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think they didn't feel the need to push us that much because we were doing that ourselves already. So, yeah.
Now, I'm going to just sidetrack you a little bit. Generally, when you think of someone who gets a 99, you think they're nerds, right? Do these guys look like nerds to you? They do, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Just a quick question. Kate and Amy, you're both going to answer this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how cool do you think you actually are?
Okay. Only the cool people would get this joke, okay? I think I'm -1. Does anyone get it? Yeah?
Yeah, you're really cool, Amy. Yeah, Kate?
Look, man, like, you have to understand that coolness cannot be quantified, you know what I mean? It is something you are or you aren't.
No, okay. I guess that case is closed. All right. Round of applause for the cool kids. Now, look, let's face it, right? I mean, if any of these guys in the crowd got like a 98.9 or a 97.6, I'm sure they'd be wrapped. Who'd be wrapped with a 96.9? Who'd be wrapped with a 96.9? Give us a round of applause if you'd be wrapped with a 96.9. Okay. So when we're talking here 99, like I know there's a lot of talk. I'm going to aim for a 99, and you know, like one of the guys on the interview on the video, he said if 99 was the highest, I'd aim for the highest. Like, is it really all that? Like, what's the point of actually aiming for something that's such a high number?
Well, personally, my goal ATAR wasn't a 99.95. My goal ATAR was a 98, and even after I got my results, I didn't think I was going to get 99.95. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's just a number. It is how hard you work that counts, because that number is just going to reflect how hard you work. So don't think about have a goal, but the main aim shouldn't be, I'm going to get the highest mark possible. The main aim is to actually just do your best. And if you think you do your best, I think that's the main thing that you get out of it.
What I find is a lot of students, they pretend they're doing their best. And this is what I think that you, as a student, I think that's something maybe you guys actually mastered, is you didn't lie to yourself in terms of how much work you're actually putting in and how much effort you're actually putting in. You were pretty serious, you were pretty honest with yourself when it came to your studies. Did you feel like that, Cade?
Yeah, definitely. I felt like that, you know, if I lied about my studies, I was only cheating myself in the end. Because ultimately, the mark I get in the end isn't my parents', it isn't my friends', it's mine, you know what I mean? And it's a reflection of what I've done in the year, you know what I mean? So I feel like just deceiving yourself is just going to hurt yourself in the long run, you know? Yeah.
Okay. This question's for you, Cade.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has different routines when they study, when they get home, on the weekends and things like that.
Yeah.
Give us a day in the life of Cade Jama during HSC time.
Okay, so weekday, wake up, breakfast, shower, go to school, come back, and then I'd relax for about 3 hours. I wouldn't do any work. Just chill, watch some TV. And then afterwards, I'd study.
Sorry, just to cut you off there. What time did you finish school?
I'd finished school at about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
So when you say relax for 3 hours, you wouldn't actually hit the books until maybe 6 or 7?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And then I'd pretty much go from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. doing whatever I need to do. That included like homework, study, extra readings, revision, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
and you were able to fit that in all in 3 hours?
Yeah, I was able to fit that in because I had, the important thing was I had a lot of free periods at school. So I was able to use, if I used that time properly, that meant I had to do less work at home.
So if you actually count the free periods you had at school, plus the extra 3 hours that you do at home, how many hours would you actually pull off on an average per weeknight?
I'd say maybe 20, on a weeknight?
On a weeknight, just
on a weeknight, I'd say about 5 to 6 hours.
5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that you just necessarily did them all after school, some of them were actually done during school time?
Yeah, definitely, And that was my routine on a weekday, and on a weekend, it was just half the day spent studying, so the morning to the afternoon, and then the rest of that day just being spent on whatever I wanted to do. So like for me, I was playing sports, so like it was important for me to get work done before I left. You know, otherwise I'd just be piling up and stuff. Yeah.
That sounds interesting. Now, what I do find as a trend is a lot of students who get these top results, I always find that there's a little something that they do differently that gives them an edge. Was there anything that you did a bit that was unusual, something that students didn't actually do, Amy? Is there something that you actually did that was a bit different?
Well, my timetable is a bit different to Cade's, I guess. I fit a lot of my work during school time, so I would get to school, I don't know, 45 minutes early, and I'll start my work then. And I get like a whole weekend off, sorry. I guess like, for me, it's just, when I have time off, I really do have fun. But then when I'm studying, like, I try to put 110% into it.
I was going to bring me, actually, you just addressed another point. I was going to say, like, how did you actually balance? But from what you're saying is, it's just whatever it is that you were doing, you were pretty focused just on that particular task.
Yeah.
If it was sport, you're focused on your sport. And if it was studies, you're focused on your studies. Is that right?
Exactly. So during that HSC year, I was also completing my AMIS exam, my piano exam. And so I had to really try and balance out my study, piano, and just like relaxing as well. And I think that the quality of studying is more important than the quantity. I think in that video, one of the students mentioned that, and I think that is very important to take away. You're just going to be kidding yourself if you're just going to sit there for 3 hours and not actually doing quality work. But like, you're lying to yourself if you're saying, I've done enough study for today, I'm just going to go have fun now. Yeah.
Great. I'm going to ask you something very specific, and maybe because I want to try and make this as tangible as possible for the audience, and you can each answer this question. If there were 3 main factors that you can attribute to your HSC success, what would they actually be?
Okay, so I think the biggest one for me was just my parents. My parents were like the people who just kept me on track, you know, when I'd lost my way. So I remember specifically a couple of times, like after a bad assessment, they just picked me up and just put me back on track. And I think that was pretty important, because otherwise I think I would have just spiraled into, like, you know, just feeling sad and depressed and just anger, you know. The second factor I think was my principal at school, because he wasn't really just like a principal, he was actually my mentor. So he guided me through a lot of like year 11 and year 12, teaching me a lot about myself and then teaching me about the value of self-reflection. So for example, he would tell me to do things like set an objective for an hour, do it. If you don't achieve it, analyze why you didn't get it. If you did, just work out why that worked for you and how that you can apply that in future scenarios. And I think the third one was just discipline. So like a lot about what Amy said about like using those hours effectively, knowing when to study and when to have fun. I think that was a big thing that helped me through high school. Yeah.
Amy?
I think, yeah, it's very similar. So mine would be, 3 things would be, I guess, family, friends, and teachers. I think those, so like just people around you, they're very important. I think because both me and Kate, I think we're both very critical people of ourselves. So when that got overboard, I think our families really put us back into perspective. And like, especially because I live with my grandma, she would always tell me to relax, take it easy. And I think that really, I don't know, brought me back to reality. So like after we'd do a bad assessment, I'd get so hung up over it. I couldn't do anything else that day. And I think the most important thing is, even though you do get like sad or depressed sometimes, like it's how you react to that that's going to set you out from other people. I think that's what's all 3 of them, all 3, my family, my teachers, my friends, all 3 of them taught me to do that.
So from what I can really see, if there's something that they can take out of those 3 attributes that you're saying, it's really about support. You really use the people around you as a support. So your parents were a support, your school friends were a support, family was a support, etc. For you, Kate, it was also your school principal. But it was really about support. So you actually used them to your advantage rather than basically clash heads all the time. It was more about the other way around. And more specifically with you, Amy, I think that concept of people telling you maybe not to stress, relax a little bit, because it can get quite stressful. I mean, there are times where you just feel like it's, you have no hope or whatever the case may be. You need that reassurance for people to actually motivate you and really put you back in line. So it's very, very good points there, definitely. I had a question, and I guess, for everybody it's a bit different. You might have an orthodox way or unorthodox way of actually answering this as well. But, in the HSC year, depending on the subjects I actually did, sometimes a lot of information that you actually need to remember, right? So if you're doing the sciences, for example, you've got biology, the chemistry, the physics, even the social sciences like economics and business studies, even English, you've got to remember quotes, you need to remember, dates sometimes, you've got to remember case studies and different processes and systems and things like that. How did you guys actually retain all this information?
So I guess the biggest thing for me, because I did a lot of science, so I did biology and chemistry, I think the biggest thing for me was realizing that I couldn't actually memorize blocks of information. So I had like major difficulty sitting down and just memorizing stuff from a textbook. What I do is actually just construct diagrams, because I felt like I was much better at just like visualizing pictures. And I think for me that was good in the sense that I was able to like bring all the concepts together and also apply them in different scenarios, which is really important in the science.
It's pretty high level. That means what you actually did was, you actually realized what type of a learner you are, and you thought of yourself more of a visual learner. So you used that to your advantage, rather than saying, I can't do this, it's all theory. You said, you know what, I'm going to make this into a way that I'm going to be able to make the most of and retain, and you used it like that. That's what I can say.
Different individuals have different styles of learning. Like a lot of my friends were textbook learners, but I found that for me, I didn't get the same results as they were getting using that same method. So I realized maybe I had to switch it up or do something that would, give me that kind of edge. So yeah.
What about you, Amy?
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of half-half. So like for like English or something, I would actually sit down and be like, okay, for each essay I'd be like, okay, what is my main point here? I have to understand it before I actually got to the memorizing part. So it's more like getting a good base and then understanding all the concepts, and then after that, all the necessary details you do need to memorize, you can memorize. Like everyone, I reckon, after constant revision, you will be able to retain information. But the best thing to do is actually understand what you're reading instead of just, yep, memorize this, okay, I've got this, I'm going to put this down in the exam. Because you have to remember, like, HSC is not just one exam, right? It's like your whole year. So if you if you understand the basics and then keep revisiting them, I think that was my best, my
So revision.
strategy. Yeah.
A lot of revision.
Yeah.
And for you, wasn't about memory, it was more about that constant, consistent revision and just trying to understand that, which helped you actually remember everything.
Yeah.
Very, very good points. Did you guys ever actually attend like something like this where you heard somebody else who got a 99? Because look, the way I'm thinking about it is like this, like we've got all these students just sitting here with their parents, they're listening to two cool kids apparently, talking about little things that they actually did that helped them get their results. Did you actually hear somebody else tell you very similar concepts? And if so, did you actually take their advice and do what they did, or was it your own little approach? And what would you suggest to them from this perspective?
For me, I did attend a seminar similar to this, run by Alpha Omega Education. And this was, I'd say, the beginning of Year 12. Yeah, this was the beginning of Year 12. And I did take a lot of the advice that was given to me, but I found that some of it worked and some of it didn't. Mainly because it was just, I felt like the speaker at the actual seminar was just being very personal and giving us very specific details that worked for him. But I think just being different people and things like that, not everything that he told me was useful. There were useful points, but not everything 100%. And I think the important thing was trying them out as soon as possible, rather than waiting later on in the year to try them out. Because I think the quicker you figure out what kind of learner you are and what works best for you, the quicker you're going to see the results. Yeah.
How about you, Amy?
So I didn't actually attend a seminar, but because I attended Alpha Omega College, some of the tutors there got 99, and I got a lot of advice from them. And what I found was very similar. So there would be some techniques which were so good, and I would thank them forever because they offered them to me. But then other techniques I've tried, one of the girls would be like, yeah, I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I got all my studying done, and then I just relaxed at the end of the day. I tried that and it didn't work for me. So it is really finding what skills work for you best, I reckon.
So it's really, what I can gather from this is you'd want them to listen to what you're going to say. It doesn't necessarily mean that they should apply everything that you guys actually did. No, it's really about what's actually going to work for you. Take what you think could actually work, try the things, I guess, that what you guys actually said, and then chop and change and mold things according to what's actually suitable for the individual. So pretty good points like that. I'm going to ask you two more questions before we actually go on to our next segment. You guys are actually going to stay on stage for a little bit.
Oh yeah, really?
Which you guys just heard, I think. But it's okay, that way it makes it more fair for the contestants, which we'll talk about in a second. But two more questions. Was it actually worth it? I mean, look, there's a lot of effort that goes into actually getting such a result. Was it actually worth it? I mean, now you're both at UNSW, you're both studying medicine. Is uni what it's, is it all that? Is it really what it's made out to be? And was the actual effort, cost-benefit analysis, was it actually worth the effort that you actually put in?
I think for both of us, sometimes we're at uni, we're sitting in a lecture and we're like, why did we do this to ourselves? We've studied so hard for this and we're finding this completely boring, right? Sometimes we think that, and then because me and Kate are in the same, we go to the same hospital, and then when we get there and we actually do hands-on stuff, we're like, this is actually so worth it, because at the end of the day, this is what we want to be able to do. And all that hard work and everything prior to that, I think makes it really worth it for both of us, yeah.
That's fantastic. Last thing, and I'm going to actually get both of you to talk and wing it as much as you want.
Yep.
What's the final piece of advice? Now this is your opportunity, the last words that you can actually say to them. What would you actually advise them as your final piece of advice? Assuming now this probably could be the last time you get a chance to actually give advice to these guys here.
The biggest piece of advice I'd actually have for you guys is to just speak, okay? If you have an issue, speak to friends, right? If you actually don't know how to study for a subject, speak to your teachers. That's what they're there for. Your teachers are meant to guide you and help you through stuff. if you're worried about something, speak to your parents. I know, like for me personally, I had a very open relationship with my parents and I could talk to them about a lot of things. But I knew for a lot of my friends that they carried some issues mainly because they didn't feel like they didn't have that open relationship with their parents. And I feel like that just hurt them in the long run. Yeah, so I think the most important thing is just to talk to people and just to make sure that you're on the same wavelength with everybody, and just really, realize that everyone has the same kind of issues, and if you speak up, you can just work through them together.
Yeah, just on that point, I think a lot of people feel like if they tell their parents things, maybe they feel judged, or even if they tell other people, they feel like people are going to judge them or think less of them or whatever. From what I can gather from you, it was actually the opposite, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty much the opposite. Like I screwed up a couple of assessments, but I told my parents, and although I knew they were disappointed in me, they didn't show that. What they showed me was they showed me affection and compassion, and they told me that, no worries, just pick yourself back up, get ready for the next one. Because I think they realized that that's what I needed at the time. And I think at the end of the day, like, all parents just want what's best for their kid, you know what I mean? I don't think any parent wants to feel disappointment with their child. So yeah.
Amy?
Yeah, Kate's point is really important, just branching off that. Like, if you don't ask for something, you're not going to get it. And it's like, if at the end of the day, your parents do want you to be happy, they don't want to see someone who's like always disappointed in themselves. They don't want to push you to the limit that you don't want to do it anymore. So I think in the long term, that's a really big point. I think my main advice to everyone here, my biggest problem was staying motivated, staying disciplined throughout like the whole year. I think that is the most important thing I can tell you right now. It's even when you feel there are times when you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, it is not worth it. Just push through that, because it's your discipline that gets you at the end of the day. Okay, so it's really about working consistently, but then you also have to find a balance with fun. Like, this is your last year, you have to enjoy it. You're never going to be in year 12 again, you're never going to be graduating from high school again. So find that balance between having fun but also maintaining that discipline throughout the whole year. I think that's my plan.
That's fantastic, guys. Thank you very, very much for that.